The evening was supposed to be perfect, or at least that's what everyone kept saying as they walked into the enormous marble-floored mansion. Laughter echoed through the chandelier-lit hall while servers carried trays of champagne and desserts. In the middle of it all, the millionaire's wife, Alina, moved like she owned the world, flawless makeup, diamond necklace, and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She watched the guests with a sharp gaze, making sure everything looked just as expensive as she felt. Near the dining area, their maid, Rena, tried her best to keep up with the pace of the night. Only 24, with soft features and tired but kind eyes, she balanced a tray of sparkling glasses while weaving through the crowd. She had worked tirelessly since morning, yet maintained her polite smile. The guests barely noticed her, except one. Alina's eyes locked on her like a hawk spotting a flaw out of place. When Rena accidentally brushed against a high-profile guest while passing by, Alina's expression hardened. She marched across the room in heels that announced her anger with each click on the marble floor. Before Rena even understood what happened, Alina snatched the tray from her hands. Conversations died instantly. The clinking of glasses seemed to freeze in midair. "Are you blind?" Alina shouted loudly enough for the entire hall to hear her. "This is not some roadside stall. This is a $1 million home. Try acting like it." Her voice sliced through the silence like a knife. Rena's cheeks flushed red as she stared at the floor, gripping her trembling hands together. Every pair of eyes in the room turned toward her, some shocked, others uncomfortable. Rena whispered an apology, but Alina wasn't done. She stepped closer, lifting Rena's chin harshly with 2 fingers. "Look at me when I'm talking to you. You can't even do a simple job correctly. How do people like you even survive?" The humiliation burned deeper than the sting on her skin. Rena's breath shook as her eyes filled with tears she struggled to hide. Across the room, a guest pinched his brows together in irritation. It was Devraj Malhotra, Alina's own husband, the man whose money built the mansion they stood in. He watched the scene unfold with growing disbelief. He had always disliked Alina's arrogance, but tonight she had crossed a line, especially because she had no idea what Rena had been going through lately. Devraj set down his glass and began moving toward them, each step firm with anger. Just as Alina raised her voice again, something unexpected happened. One of the elderly guests, a respected business magnate, stepped forward and spoke loudly, "Enough, Alina." The room gasped. No one ever contradicted her, especially not at her own party. Alina blinked, shocked, turning toward him. "Excuse me," she demanded, but the man didn't flinch. The old man nodded toward Rena, his expression stern. "Do you have any idea who she is?" he asked. The crowd leaned in. Rena looked up, confused and frightened. Alina scoffed, rolling her eyes dramatically, "She's the maid. What else?" But the guest shook his head, lifting his chin slightly, almost in disappointment. "She's the daughter of the man who saved your husband's company 20 years ago." Gasps rippled through the room as people exchanged stunned looks. Even Rena seemed taken aback by the statement. Devraj finally reached them, placing a protective hand on Rena's shoulder. His voice was calm but carried the weight of truth. "And the only reason we still have everything today is because of her family's sacrifice." The entire atmosphere shifted instantly. Alina's face drained of color, the arrogance slipping away like melting wax. Her mouth opened but no words formed. For the first time that night, she looked small, very small. Right there, in front of everyone, karma arrived without delay. And it hit exactly where it hurt her most, her pride. The silence after Devraj's words stretched across the room like a heavy curtain. Alina stared at her husband, her glossy lips trembling slightly as if she wanted to protest but couldn't find the strength. For years, she had built her identity on status, on being the untouchable queen of her social circle. But now, in front of her guests, her audience, her crown felt like it had slipped right off her head. Rena stood quietly, unsure where to look, still holding the sting of the insult yet overwhelmed by this sudden wave of truth. The partygoers whispered among themselves, and the hum of murmurs filled the hall, each one chipping away at Alina's superiority. Devraj turned to Rena, his expression softer than anyone had seen in years. "You shouldn't have been treated like that," he said firmly, loud enough for the guests to hear. "Not in this house. Not ever." His sincerity hit her harder than the humiliation. She nodded slowly, trying to gather her scattered emotions. A few sympathetic faces among the guests stepped closer, offering her tiny gestures, soft smiles, looks of apology, as if they too realized how cruel silence could be when someone was being crushed. Alina finally found her voice, but it cracked when she spoke. "Devraj, I didn't know," she said, trying to regain her usual confidence, but it came out thin and shaky. He looked at her with a calm disappointment she had never seen in his eyes before. "You didn't need to know her identity to treat her with basic dignity," he replied flatly. The words felt like a final verdict. The guest slowly nodded as if echoing his point. Alina's gaze darted around the room, searching for support, but all she found were stiff expressions and averted eyes. The elderly businessman stepped beside Rina, placing a gentle hand on her back. "Your father was an honorable man," he said softly. "I see he raised an honorable daughter." Rina lowered her eyes, overwhelmed with emotion. She hadn't expected anyone to stand up for her, especially not someone with such influence. Her hands, which had been shaking earlier, now felt steadier, as if she wasn't carrying her pain alone anymore. Trying to salvage the situation, Alina moved toward Rina with a forced apologetic smile. But Devraj raised his hand slightly, stopping her mid-step. "Not now," he said, and that simple gesture made the guests inhale sharply. Alina's face flushed with embarrassment, and she froze, unable to argue. Never before had she been told to stop. Never before had she been humbled so publicly, yet everyone understood it was deserved. Devraj then turned toward the crowd and spoke with a composed authority that reminded them why he was respected far beyond his wealth. "A home is only as honorable as the way it treats the people who serve it," he said. "Tonight, we lost that dignity. And that's on us." His voice carried a weight that settled deep into every corner of the hall. The guests shifted uncomfortably, each processing the message. A few clapped softly at first, and then the applause grew, not for the spectacle, but for the truth. The staff, who had been frozen in the background, felt a strange sense of relief washing over them. Rina felt her heart thaw a little as she glimpsed them smiling gently at her, silently telling her she wasn't alone. Her chest felt tight, but this time from gratitude rather than shame. She took a slow breath, finally lifting her head with a quiet strength that shimmered in her eyes. When the applause faded, Devraj spoke quietly to Rina, "You've done nothing wrong. If anything, you've endured more than you should have." His voice softened even more. "Take the night off. Go rest." Rina hesitated at first, glancing at Alina for permission, but Devraj gently touched her arm. "From now on, you answer to me." She nodded slowly, a soft thank you escaping her lips. As Rina walked away, the guests parted to give her space, many offering tiny nods of respect. Alina stood alone in the center of the hall, the weight of her actions crushing her from inside. She had always believed power came from wealth and appearance. But tonight, she learned that real power belonged to kindness, and she had none to show.